As we focus tonight on curbing community transmission and understanding the awareness of COVID-19 in Nigeria, let's do a quick comparison of the figures recorded in the country from the 1st of April to the 29th of April. As of April the 1st, there were 174 total confirmed cases. Of the 174 cases, 93 of them, that's 52%, had travel history to high-risk countries. 18 of them, that's 10%, were contacts of known confirmed cases, and 63, that is 36%, have incomplete epidemiological information, that is unknown source of infection. Still talking about April the 1st, 2 confirmed fatalities were recorded as at then, with the most affected age group being between 51 and 60. Let's fast forward to April the 29th. Between the first day of the month to the 29th, there was an increase of over 900% in the total of confirmed cases, bringing the figures to 1,728. Of this number, 210, that's 12%, had travel history. 444, that is 26%, were contacts of known confirmed cases. 868, that is 50%, are cases with no epidemiological link. And 206, that's 12%, had incomplete information. The number of deaths now stands at 51, and the most affected age group is between 31 and 40. That is, those who now form 23% of the total. Now, from Lekki area of Lagos, a public health physician, Dr. Odubanjo, joins us to look at how to curb the spread of coronavirus, as well as the issue of community transmission in particular. Good evening, Dr. Odubanjo. Thank you for being with us at this time.
Good evening. It's a pleasure being here.
We've heard a lot about community spread and community transmission of this, but the question that many are asking is, do the communities know anything about the transmission that is going on within them? What do you think?
Well, I think increasingly so. The communities are beginning to know. Especially one big question people ask is, what has the lockdown done for us? And I always say, for one, the lockdown means that people will ask questions. Why am I not being allowed to move? Why are things so laid back? Why are policemen all over the place? And that in itself presents an opportunity to tell them what is going on if they had not heard it before. So I think to start with, we have an increasing number of people who have come to know about the coronavirus, even if they can't pronounce the name, but they know that there is a virus out there that the government is trying to fight. But we need to do a lot more than we have done. We need to get down to the grassroots. We need to use every available structure. And I think a place like Lagos has good structures in place. Lagos is one of the states that has medical officers of health in all the local governments, for instance. So Lagos has a fairly strong primary health care in the state, and a fairly strong system that can be exploited. The CDAs are there, community development associations, and all that. And all those structures should, or rather must be used in order to enlighten the community. The big thing that must be said is that when you say community transmission, as the name implies, it is moving in the communities, and the best way to fight is to get the communities to fight back.
When we talk about this community transmission, as you've pointed out, one of the gains that many have pointed to in this last almost 4 weeks now of the lockdown, particularly in the key areas where there seems to be a cluster or there are clusters of cases, is the fact that we were able to attack the virus spread in those communities because people remained where they are largely. With this easing that is going to begin on Monday and all that will come with it, do you still think that we will be able to keep up the momentum of those advantages we have secured when people are now able to move around from 8 in the morning to 6, some others from 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening and all of that? Will we still be able to do that?
Well, not as much as under a lockdown, and that's why there was a lockdown. But the problem with the lockdown is that it's not sustainable on the long run, for many reasons that are quite well known. However, once you begin to ease, and that's the term, you ease the lockdown, you don't remove the lockdown. And in easing the lockdown, I know that there have been statements, the governor gave a whole speech yesterday, trying to detail things that must be in place even though people are moving around, using face coverings or face masks, ensuring that you still, no gatherings, no social gatherings, no religious gatherings. And all of these things are still important, and it's important for people to know that all you are permitted to do is to be able to move, but move safely. Avoid the crowds, avoid unhygienic lifestyles and all of that. And it's important that we all adhere to it. And I would say it's also very important now that the law enforcement agents actually enforce those things.
Last point you've made is where I would like to wrap this discussion up. Enforcement. It does appear as if, and the SGF was asked that yesterday, that the absence of penalties, stiff penalties for defaulters seems to have encouraged quite a lot of people to break many of these restrictions, even when the lockdown was quote and unquote total. What stops them now from what stops them from not complying now that they're going to be allowed some measure of movement? And what kind of risk does that pose to the curbing of the community transmission that we're talking about?
Well, I beg to differ from the SGF in my view of why that enforcement wasn't very or totally effective. And my view is that that was happening because the law enforcement agents themselves do not fully understand the implications of not enforcing the things that they're asked to enforce. So I believe that we need to start from there to engender the patriotism needed in the law enforcement agents. What you don't want is the harassment of citizens and all of that. I actually believe that when you come to enforcement is your last card, and is actually an admission of failure in terms of public enlightenment and behavioral change management. So once you have to push enforcement to its limit, it means you failed in the other things. But you'll be more successful once you can get the law enforcement agents and particularly get the communities themselves to understand the implications of what they do or don't do, in which case you won't need so much of enforcement. So I think it's more important that we educate the law enforcement agents and educate the communities themselves so that people really do these things and not so much about the punishment meted out to them.
So, Odubanjo, for joining us at this time from Lekki in Lagos. Thank you so much for your time.